love and marriage go.
Still ahead for you here on Good Day Connecticut. We are looking at technology called COPsync, what it's doing at police departments across the country and how it may save many lives.
I remember once reading a news story where I said a police officer made a routine traffic stop. Well, you know what? A viewer wrote in to very politely remind me that there is no such thing. That for a police officer, every traffic stop or every call for help that he or she responds to could be the last one. My guest today knows that all too well. His name is Woessner. He lost a friend, a police officer who was killed during a traffic stop a number of years ago. Well, the technology that he developed as a response to that has led to a booming business. It's called COPsync, and it's now being used by hundreds of police departments around the country, and some Connecticut departments are using forms of it. It's making some traction here in New England as well. Thank you for joining us today. It's really a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you for having me.
And to hear about this system, and it's hard for me to try to think about how to describe it to people other than it seems like it's trying to grow a very vast network of information that law enforcement officers don't have and that they need. How would you describe what COPsync really is?
COPsync is a simple app that connects law enforcement officers and agencies. Now that they're connected, they can share information so that the information known to one is now known to all, and because they can communicate in real time now, they can respond quicker to emergencies and save minutes in those circumstances when seconds count, such as, for example, crises in the school, shootings, gang fight, and so forth.
Yeah, and it seems like the applications vary widely, from everything from stopping terroristic activity to more average everyday crimes. When you say information, though, what information are you talking about?
What we're talking about is information that a law enforcement officer would like to know before they even hit the light bar and make the traffic stop. For example, is this person in the vehicle, are they known or suspected to be involved in narcotics trafficking? Mm-hmm. Are they known to carry a weapon? Have they made a threat to kill a police officer? This is all type of information that you as a police officer would like to know before you make that traffic stop, and today law enforcement officers do not have that type of information, so they're really walking up blind to the circumstance, and it's natural then where we see some of these unfortunate cases where they're making a split-second decision because they didn't have good information. Mm-hmm. So for example, we had the shooting up in the Twin Cities area, Minnesota, where the driver in that case had 31 traffic violations over the prior 12 years, but all of his encounters with local police had been nonviolent. Mm-hmm. And so it's reasonable to think that perhaps that officer may have handled that circumstance differently had he known that the driver was a nonviolent person. Similarly, there was a shooting of this officer in Missouri where he got shot in the back by the driver, and in that case, the driver of the vehicle was on parole for weapons violation and auto theft. And it's reasonable to think the officer, had he known that information at the time of making the traffic stop, that he may have handled that circumstance very differently.
What about, say, in an active shooter situation? Somebody's in a bathroom, they're calling 911.
That's correct.
What are the different steps that COPsync could sort of help the law enforcement officers who are responding with?
The concept here is that people under threat will have an app on their cell phone or the computer, like in a school, for example. Okay. And you arm the teachers with an app on their computers and their mobile devices. A threat arises, gun on campus, knife on campus, gang fight, shooter, whatever the emergency is, you just push the app and they're directly connected to the dispatch center and the closest patrol units in their cars, and they're now talking with the patrol officers through a chat room, so to speak, and providing up to the second situational information to the responding officers. The officers have a map so they know how to get to the facility, and a facility diagram so that they roll up on scene and someone says the gang fight is now, or the knife is now in the library, they can look on the diagram and see where the library is.
Okay, that's much more comprehensive than just what police would be using for traffic stops. So this is being marketed to schools also. This is not just solely for law enforcement officers, correct?
That's correct. It's being used to protect schools schools, to protect hospitals, courthouses. Judges are targets these days, being used to protect manufacturing facilities, energy infrastructure. Any facility or location that has more than an average level of concern about their security should be using COPsync to help protect them and get the officers on scene faster.
Is everybody in the network, every agency, every school, all connected? Like, I know there's many down in the Texas area.
Yes.
where you're from. Just in theory, say if somebody who's wanted for a crime in Connecticut gets stopped in Texas, is there enough of a network to share the information that way too?
Absolutely. This is the concept. We're linking or syncing law enforcement officers together so that information and knowledge known to one is now known to all law enforcement officers that are on the system.
Sometimes I get the sense that people think maybe something like that already exists, and that they're surprised to find out that it doesn't. So just take me through again, say, how about for stopping terrorism, how the current system is deficient and how COPsync would help that in your opinion?
Okay, let's talk about that. There are approximately 1 million law enforcement officers in America that make 26 million traffic stops every year in America, okay? Right. And so there are 26 million encounters with people. In the course of encountering these individuals, they're learning or seeing something of interest that may be relevant to someone that's involved in terrorist activities. Okay, right now that information goes nowhere. It just stays in only they know it, no one else knows it. So for example, we had a circumstance where a patrol officer made a traffic stop on a car. He saw some loose ammunition on the floorboard of the vehicle. That's not a crime, he just made a simple note of it. A subsequent officer then, weeks later, then made a traffic stop on the same vehicle, saw the note about the loose ammunition, then started asking some questions, and then one thing led to another, and they searched the vehicle and they found the whole interior of the vehicle had been wrapped with ammunition to be smuggled into Mexico. Okay. And so the point is, when you combat terrorism, you're trying to connect the dots of information.
You're trying to find patterns when one data point wouldn't be enough.
One data point wouldn't be enough. And if you have 1 million law enforcement officers connected together, putting this information in a database, then the patterns will be quicker to emerge, and subsequent officers are going to see somebody and say, oh, by the way, they were doing X a while ago. This is suspicious. Let's take a further look.
And hopefully prevent things before they happen. Now, I know it's being used in some way, shape, or form in West Haven.
That's correct.
The Hartford police departments are thinking about it too. So I'm curious to see how this winds up playing out, and if your business grows, and if it winds up really helping to shape how law enforcement and how intelligence gathering is changed throughout. So thank you so much for coming on, Ron. A pleasure to have you.
Appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
A pleasure to have you.
Good seeing you. Thank you.
Glad you made the trip all the way up from Texas for us. We do appreciate it. And by the way, if you'd like more information, we do have a link on our page at fox61.com.